Welcome to It's Happening in Grand Prairie, Texas. We're delighted that you're in our viewing audience and hope you'll stay with us today. We have a wonderful show, and today we have Sergeant Eric Hansen, and he is a very special young man to Grand Prairie, Texas, in that he has participated in one of our 100th anniversary activities celebrating the corporate city of Grand Prairie, and also he is the historian for the Grand Prairie Police Department. And we're going to talk about all of those things, and we're so excited. Welcome to the set, Sergeant Hansen.
Thank you, ma'am. Good to be here.
Thank you, Sergeant Eric. It's just really wonderful. And first of all, I'd like for us to talk about our Safety Train project. And that Safety Train project, of course, relates to the fact that we had esteemed that the Texas and Pacific Railroad, now the
Union Pacific
Railroad, yes. Now that that's in the past for the Texas and Pacific Railroad, the other had done so many things and had laid the rails here in 1876. And so we figured them as the longest running business for their tracks coming through Grand Prairie. They have come to Grand Prairie over the 100 years even. And so we were excited about that and wanted to document that with a train ride.
Yes.
We didn't have an opportunity to do a train ride, but you did when they had the safety train came about. And tell us a little bit about your story of pulling that together and what happened from Fort Worth to Dallas and etc.
Well, we went to downtown Fort Worth and were able to get on one of the old Union Pacific passenger trains, which is of historical significance. That even has a special car on the back of the train that the president of the railroad would ride in whenever they were traveling around the country. So it's a pretty neat train, restored, has a nice view from the passenger side of the train where we were able to sit up in there and ride from that train from Fort Worth all the way to Dallas that day. Without
any stops, or did we stop?
We did stop in Arlington and
yes.
Picked up a contingent of folks from Arlington and then continued on to Dallas. And we were able to enjoy a really smooth ride and get a look at some countryside that you can't see unless you're on a train. It goes through different routes than your basic automobile traffic does, and so that in itself made it interesting and scenic.
Well, it was really exciting to me because that was the time when we had an opportunity. Not only we did that 15 years ago when the safety train had another special train. What is the safety train? What is the object of them by the railroad to send this train around to these different places?
Well, the objective is to get the public and elected officials and people that are important in the community to understand the importance of safety at rail grade crossings. Trains obviously cannot swerve and they can't stop very fast. So if a car were to disregard the barricades and get out in front of the train, then there's a good chance that you're going to have a collision and somebody could get hurt or even killed. And we've had, unfortunately, these incidents have occurred throughout Grand Prairie's past, where we've had pedestrians and cars struck by trains. And the importance of the safety train is to educate the public on rail crossing safety and to respect the railroad crossings, respect the railroad tracks, and respect the train itself.
I know that the one that we did 15 years ago, they picked us up in Fort Worth and took us to Dallas and then took us back to Grand Prairie and let us off in Grand Prairie. And during that time, we were seated where we could see the people that were disobeying the law and crossing across right in front of the train as we were coming along, because we were going rather slowly in the train, and there were just many incidents where they violated the law. Is there an improvement on that in Grand Prairie now?
We have improved on that through several enforcement areas. One of them is to have a joint railroad crossing enforcement detail, which we do in conjunction with the Grand Prairie Police Department, the Arlington Police Department, and the Union Pacific Railroad. And what we'll do is we'll get 2 engines and put police officers on those engines, and then those engines will run the route from West Arlington to East Grand Prairie and back several times. And the objective is to catch people who are disregarding the railroad barricades. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't understand that when those red lights start flashing at the railroad crossings, that means stop. It's the same as a flashing red light at an intersection. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are in a hurry and they don't respect the fact that train's coming, and they'll disregard those. And then our mission is to take enforcement action against them and to educate them so that they don't do that in the future, which we hope will result in the saving of lives. Aside from those types of operations, which are called CARE operations, Crossing Accident Reduction Education is what that stands for, we've also become the first city in the state of Texas to install photo enforcement at certain railroad crossings. And the photo enforcement at the railroad crossings works very similarly to what we have at a regular intersection that might have a red light camera, except the ones at the railroad crossings focus on violators who disregard the railroad warning devices, the gates or the red lights at the.
You get them before then.
Yes, ma'am.
That is wonderful.
And they'll get a ticket in the mail and stuff. And honestly, I think it has worked. We've been fortunate not to have any fatalities at any of our railroad crossings since this project has been installed in the city, which was in 2007.
All right, now we had some improvement in them this year when we went silent. Now, the silence where they built all of the little islands there crossing the railroad tracks where only one car can go by, and they can't cross under the arms that come down over the railroad track. Was the police department responsible for this? I understand the mayor put the pressure on them, and he wanted the silence of not having the horns sounded in Grand Prairie, Texas. And what do you comment on that?
Well, those horns have been sounding in Grand Prairie as long as the railroad's been here, so we're talking over 100 years.
Yes.
And I suspect that the train horns have gotten louder over the years with the improvements in that technology. But the establishment of a quiet zone was something that the mayor and other city officials wanted to bring to Grand Prairie to improve the quality of life, basically to get it a little more quiet and peaceful in the downtown area. And one of the ways to do that is to improve your railroad crossings to where the train doesn't have to blow its horn when it's coming through the city.
Yes.
And to do that, you have to be able to prevent people from having the opportunity to get on those railroad tracks in front of the trains. And in order to do that, what the city did was install curbed medians at the railroad crossings, which basically makes it impossible for a person to serpentine the gates.
Yes.
And what I mean by serpentining the gates,
sneak through it.
Right, when the gates go down like this, they had been able in the past to go around that way to get across the railroad tracks. We'd seen it time and time again. We've even had people killed doing that very thing because they didn't realize the train was coming. Now that those crossings have been improved with the medians, that does not give people the opportunity to make that kind of maneuver, and therefore they were able to establish a quiet zone. The construction for the quiet zone and those medians was paid for entirely through the revenues generated by our photo enforcement program.
Oh, well, wonderful.
That includes the photo enforcement at the railroad crossings and the photo enforcement at the regular intersections. All of the profits, if you will, that came in from people paying those fines went toward that traffic safety project, and all profits from any fines that are generated by the photo enforcement program all have to go back to traffic safety. Traffic
safety. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I think we beat that one a little bit, but I know that the railroad has been very important to us, and we salute the Union Pacific, and I really salute the Texas and Pacific Railroad because it ran by my house for many long years when I was a teenager and a kid, and I want to thank you for helping us to document the railroad as one of the important factors in our 100th anniversary. But now let's get to your main job.
Okay.
Being the historian of the police department, how exciting is that?
That's very exciting, especially we're in our 100th year anniversary.
Yes.
And for the Grand Prairie Police Department being a suburban police department in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we're one of the oldest of the law enforcement agencies that came about after Dallas and Fort Worth created their own police departments back in the 1800s. We were one of the first ones to establish a department, and that of course occurred in 1909 when the city of Grand Prairie incorporated, and our law enforcement beginning at that time was through the office of an elected city marshal. And the elected city marshal was the law enforcement for the recently incorporated city of Grand Prairie back in 1909, and maintained that position all the way up until about 1941. And in 1941, the name of the department was officially changed from a city marshal's type department to the police department.
Department.
Even though in the years prior to that, they were used interchangeably.
Yes. And that was a very exciting move, wasn't it? And are you keeping a record about who our first city marshal was and all the others, and are you still researching, and do you need any help?
We do need help because the police department has not been very good at keeping up with our history in the past. And most of the photographs and what I think are important, valuable information from our past and our history have all been kept by private historians, private records, people keeping these things in their families and whatnot.
Oh, of course.
And we've been able to get a lot of cooperation from people that used to work for the police department or had photographs of police-related items and things like that. And we were able to get that, and we're putting it in our 100th year anniversary commemorative album, which will be out in the spring.
Oh.
And it'll be detailing the first 100 years of the Grand Prairie Police Department.
How wonderful!
We're very excited about that because we're uncovering a lot of just a treasure trove of information and photographs and uniform items, badges, all kinds of stuff that date way back to where anybody that's currently on the police department can remember.
What are you more in dire need of right now, the periods of the dates that you need to cover?
Right now we're in need of anything prior to the 1950s. We have a lot of information from the 50s, anything from the 40s, 30s, 20s, all the way back to the beginnings of the department in 1909 are things that we don't have much of. We don't have much of in the way of photographs or other memorabilia. Perry Nash was the first police chief, and he started out as city marshal in 1931. We don't have any of Mr. Nash's memorabilia, photographs of him in uniform or of his badge or anything like that, and that's certainly something that we would consider a very valuable item if we were able to get something like that.
Have you traced his family or anything for that?
We have been looking for some of that, but have not been able to get in touch with any of his
immediate
family since we started this project, and we're still working every day. We get phone calls from people who know what we're doing, and they've got information, or they're sending us photographs and things like that. And it's very exciting to be able to be part of that project and learning more about our own history.
Well, I'd like for you to look out into your camera here that says "The Guest" on the front of it, and ask anyone and make a plea for the things that you need, and let's get that on the road again.
Well, the Grand Prairie Police Department is very interested in anybody that has any photographs of police officers, police cars from the past. We have a lot of information from the 1950s and on up, although we would certainly be interested in getting more, especially from the 50s and 60s. The 70s and on up we're pretty well covered with photographs and information, but anything from the 60s, 50s, and then certainly into the 40s and 30s, and as far back into the 20s, if we could get that. Anybody that has any photographs or former family members that used to be on the department or were associated with the police department that might have photographs or old badges or anything like that is something that we would be very interested in obtaining, so that we can use those photographs and perhaps even display any other items such as badges or whatever somebody might have in the museum that will be opening in the lobby of our new police station, which opens up in the spring. And we're going to have a museum in the front of it that the police and fire department will have historical items of historical significance in that.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you very much for caring enough to do this, and you're also a member of the Grand Prairie Historical Organization, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I think that is really remarkable. I want to thank you, Sergeant Eric. It's been real delightful to have you with us and make that plea, and we just hope that you hear from everyone, and especially the library in Dallas, and the newspaper library that we have available information from, and hope that you'll just have one of the most magnificent displays of anyone in the Metroplex.
Well, thank you very much. We plan on it.
Thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
And we'll be right back with the rest of our show.
And in other news in the Greater Tuna area, Sheriff Buford Givens has just arrested another lousy litterbug.
Nailed his tail.
Find his hiney.
Clipped his knickers.
Put him away.
Under the jail.
He did.
He did.
He did. And I have news for all you potential litter bugs out there. When you're messing with tuna, you're messing with Texas.
Oh, don't mess with Texas.
Don't do it.
And in other related news,
Welcome back. We're very excited. We have one very special happy birthday before we bring you our two marvelous guests, and that is to Lady Bird Johnson, who was our mentor for many long years in not only Texas but in the United States as the beautification guru of the whole United States, but especially for Texas. She was born on the magic date of December the 23rd, 1912. She passed away in 2007. We salute that lady, and we always want to remember her, that keep Texas beautiful, keep America beautiful, and keep Grand Prairie beautiful are all followers of her wonderful, wonderful work that she did in beautification and billboards and all of the things that she's contributed. And now, to two of the most marvelous people that we would ever want on this show, we have today Mr. Wayne Hanks. Mr. Wayne Hanks is an entrepreneur, a really heavily invested businessman in the city of Grand Prairie, a member of the Sports Authority, and the grandfather of Christian that is his guest today. And we are so excited to have both of them here. And young man, we're really proud of you for ending our year with a grandfather and a grandson.
Ruthie, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be your guest, and what you do for Grand Prairie
Yes.
is unreplaceable, irreplaceable, I should say.
And Price, of all of the Christians in the world, you are spectacular.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Bryce, for being here and honoring not only your grandfather, but your parents.
Well, thank
your
you.
parents have been really special to us. And this is sort of a unusual season for us in that we had always experienced a very happy happening when the Sports Authority have a foundation, or at least the racetrack has a foundation, and both of you have been so important in that over the years, helping us to raise funds for all of the wonderful 501c3s in Grand Prairie, Texas. You didn't have a job this time because we didn't get to have the foundation banquet and really one of the greatest social happenings in Grand Prairie. So we thought it would be really appropriate to take the older member of the family and the younger member of the family, because now Price was very, very important because he was out there working as if he were on the board. And I have always admired him for all of the things that he has done to help us do that. And since we didn't get to do that, I thought this was a good substitute for us to salute that foundation. Even though they're inactive just this 1 year, we just have great hopes for everything that's going on at Lone Star Park. And we thank you, Wayne, as the Vice President of the Sports Authority for the City of Grand Prairie, Texas. You have done a magnificent job in really taking care of more things than you could say grace over. And that is true. Now, I'd like to just hear from Wayne Hanks the excitement of coming to television to salute your grandson, because don't you think that he has done a wonderful job?
Well, I am very, very fortunate to have as talented a grandson as anybody in the world.
That is good.
And Pricey has been very instrumental in a lot of things that our family has done, and he's really made a name for himself at Baylor as far as in the acting end of his career, and has been recognized by his peers.
Yes.
He was one of the first, maybe the first, freshman that was ever put in a major play at Baylor this last year. And he's always there. It's important that, especially when you get along in age like I have.
Yes.
Young age.
Yes, young
and,
age.
He's always there if you need him. He'll help you, and take care of some things that we can't do anymore.
Well, only 4 days ago, or 5 days ago, you were in the Arlington Memorial Hospital with pneumonia in one lung, and I'd already scheduled you and Price for this interview, and I was a little bit apprehensive, but you know, the good Lord took care of that, and you got out of there by Saturday night, and I'm just so thankful that that you're as healthy as you are at our age.
Well, you have to remember, I wasn't on the good Lord's list this time.
Yes.
And the devil don't want me, so
there you are.
But it came about fine, and of course, my 3 daughters, bless their hearts, and Virginia spent every day, every minute, every hour
Yes.
at the hospital with
Yes.
me, and
Yes.
I had to send them home to get rid of them.
Yes.
But it went very well. Caught it at the right time, and it's amazing what antibiotics do for you, and it worked very well. So.
Now Price's mother is Janie, and Blaine is his dad. I want to know, is Janie your youngest daughter?
Janie is the youngest
Is she
of
the
the Hanks
baby?
clan. She's the baby.
Oh, she is a pistol. Isn't she good? Well, I wanted to establish that because now you didn't offer her to come on the show.
No?
Oh no, no! You said I want to bring my grandson,
Well, that's
and so that's
her time's coming. Maybe one
yes,
of these
yes,
days.
one of these days. All right, that's wonderful. Well, I wanted to salute his parents because
Thank you.
Price has
I
a
don't know of anybody in Grand Prairie that's more involved with community projects than Janie Christian.
that's right.
And business-wise, she's just been assumed a new position at Control Products. She's
Yes.
now she has been a vice president for quite a while, but she took over vice president of marketing and communications.
Oh, she's good at that.
And,
she's good.
We're going to see a lot of things change, and
Yes.
she's only been doing it about a month, and we've seen the changes
Saying
already.
the changes already. That's good.
And
All right.
of course, I just want to make other comment, and
Yes.
I've been to a lot of church events in the city of Grand Prairie in
Yes.
43 years.
Yes.
Never been to one like the Baptist program that they had 2 weeks ago,
Wonderful.
and Janie was a wheel horse on putting all that together.
Oh, how wonderful.
And I want to make sure that she knows how much I love her, and also the world does. So.
Yes, the world does. It certainly does, and I know that it. When you, I was able to represent the mayor at the First Baptist Church when they had their grand to-do, as I called it, and we got more good pictures of that than of probably anything deserved. But may I talk now a little bit to Price?
I wish you would.
I wish you would. Price, a warrior of the past. South Grand Prairie High School, the magic year was it 2007?
It was 2008.
2008, 2008. And in leaving South Grand Prairie High School, was your first choice always Baylor?
No, I went through a long list. I thought about New York. I looked at University of San Diego, looked at University of Miami, Texas Tech, and Baylor were the 2 at-home schools, I guess, the only Texas schools that I was looking at. I went and I auditioned for Baylor, and within 3 or 4 days I got a letter accepting into the department and into the school, and I just felt like it was the right path for me, so I went and I did it, and it's been a great choice for me. I really enjoyed my time, so.
It's wonderful. Now I know that when Janie told me that you were going to California and you were going to Florida, I panicked. I said, Janie, can't you do any better than that? You need to keep that wonderful young man at least in the state of Texas or somewhere, maybe a bordering state. But she had jumped over states and gone all the way to California. And then she came back and told me, she says, well, said, I think it's going to be all right, Miss Ruthie. Said, he made the boy of the month. He did everything that was just exactly right. And we were so glad to hear that you were going to be in Texas, and especially at Baylor.
Yep.
And tell me about your tenure there.
Well, it's been a really big change in my life. I mean, college is such a huge step.
Yes, it is.
It's so different from high school, but it's been a really great experience. I mean, it's been tough. School is hard, but I think I've really worked really hard to do well, and I've done well in school, and I've really, really enjoyed the theater department at Baylor. We do a Horton Foot Festival, which is what we just finished in November, and it's in honor of the playwright Horton Foot, who
Yes.
he has a lot of credits in his past. He wrote the screenplay for To Kill a Mockingbird. But things like that, it goes to show you the connections that I'm going to have once I've graduated.
Oh, yes.
And so we honored Craig Wright, who is a playwright right now. He's a current playwright. And it was just a great experience to get to meet someone that is in the business, that is out there in New York and California, that has
That know your name.
that know my name, and that I now have his email, his cell phone number. It's a great thing.
Opportunity.
Yeah. And so it's a lot of fun. In January, I'm going to New York with a few other theater majors from school, and we're going to meet with some alumni from Baylor, and that's just the other thing, anywhere we go, we know people that are alumni. So it's
You get to case the joint,
Yeah.
don't you? Oh, that is a marvelous
Yeah,
opportunity.
it's great. So
Well, now tell me, are you more interested in the acting phase, the directing, or projecting? What's the future hold for Price?
There's a lot. I've really gotten to dive into the other aspects of theater, the design. I'll be starting directing in my junior year, but I mean the acting is still, that's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to enjoy directing, and that might actually be a pathway for me. But
Yes.
the acting has really been, it's just growing so much each year. So.
Well, we've missed you in Grand Prairie, Texas, because there's been many things that Janie has been in charge of that you had always helped in the past
Yeah.
to do all of these good things. And so we're letting you be free for a while
Yeah.
and try your wings at acting and doing other good things.
Yes, ma'am.
But you'll excuse me now, and I need to get back to
Oh,
His
of
Majesty
course.
just a
Of
minute.
course.
Yes. Are you real pleased with how everything is going in any area of your life?
I'm lucky to be able to say that this is the most important part of my life,
Yes.
and I've enjoyed it more than a lot of my life.
Yeah.
I think Jenny and I are in a position where we enjoy each other more than we ever have,
Isn't that great?
and it is probably the best part of our life, is that all of our kids and all of our grandkids are still in the Metroplex area.
Yes.
Linda, my oldest daughter, they live in Grand Prairie.
Yes.
Of course, Janie and Blaine live in South Grand Prairie, and Martha lives out in Grapevine.
Yes.
And so we spend holidays together and birthdays together, and it's just that's what makes life so beautiful.
That's a salute to families that really care about each other.
That's exactly right.
That is wonderful. And you didn't have that kind of an opportunity when you were young, did you?
No, it did not.
Yes.
I left home when I was 16,
Yes.
and of course my father was. Everybody says I'm kind of like him, but he say you can stay here as long as you like. Okay, but when you leave, we break your plate.
That's it. You
You're
can't
done.
come back. You're on your
You're
own.
done.
That's it.
So, although it's, I really have, I have two sisters and a brother that live out in the California area, and see them as often as we can when we're out there. But my real family is my real family.
Well, I want to thank you for telling us that story. If we don't cut this down, we're going to get in bad trouble with Mr. Don Johnson. I thank y'all so much for helping us end the year with a grandfather and a grandson that are compatible, and that y'all have been just really important to the city of Grand Prairie, Texas in the past, and we know that it will be in the future. And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you, Happy New Year, because this is the last of our shows for the year of 2009. And God bless Grand Prairie, and God bless America. And thank you for watching our show.